In the 1930s, Australian farmers decided to introduce sugarcane. Seemed like a good idea, but there was a problem. The problem was beetles, cane beetles as they were called. They just devastated the crop. So they needed some advice. Well, they knew that Hawaii had been very successful in growing sugarcane. They wondered why. So they asked some experts. And it turned out that there was something in Hawaii that wasn't in Australia. Cane toads, as they had come to be called, sugarcane toads. I got one of them. He's seen better days. He's a dehydrated version. But in any case, these cane toads ate beetles. So the Australians thought, great, let's import some of these guys and see what they can do. So they built a romantic pond for them. They imported about 100 of these little guys and gals and thought that they would, stimulate them to reproduce in this romantic pond with lilies. Turned out they didn't need much stimulation. They reproduced and they reproduced and they reproduced. And they grew and grew and grew. And some of them grow, boy, almost to the size of a football. And they became a real problem. Imagine these guys hopping across the road and a car coming and squashing them. Boy, that makes a mess, and there were all kinds of accidents. They would eat everything in sight. They would eat ping pong balls. They would eat lit cigarettes, and they would mate with anything. They would mate, believe it or not, with goldfish. They would mate with cats, attempt to mate with dogs. That was a real problem because these guys have a gland just behind their eyes that produces a variety of toxins. That's a natural protective mechanism. So if a predator bites into it, it learns not to do it again. But they became a big scourge because they actually didn't do what they were supposed to do. They weren't able to control the beetles. How come? Because there was something in Australian fields that they didn't have in Hawaii, and that was lamps. And the beetles would jump and get fried by the lamps and fall down. So the cane toads would just sit under the lamps and wait for the snack to fall from the sky. But there weren't enough beetles doing that, so they were kind of useless. But as I said, they multiplied, and created all kinds of problems. And there's still a scourge in Queensland in Australia, and they really don't know what to do with them. They try to have predators, snakes, etc., but it just hasn't worked. But now there's an industry that has cropped up with these guys, and that is to stuff them and sell them to the tourists because they do make an interesting attraction. And here's one. He's nicely stuffed. He's kind of a smaller guy, and they sell them to tourists. They're also trying to make leather out of them, wallets, belts, etc., and apparently those are going over well in China. But the most interesting possibility is to take the glands that produce the toxins, isolate the chemicals, and see whether or not they have any potential therapeutically. And it seems they may. So it's an interesting story, and it just goes to show the problems that can arise when you introduce one species into a novel environment. And the results may be totally unexpected. But they are interesting little creatures. This one, as I said, has seen better days. I'm not sure quite what that is. It seems to be somewhat salty. Maybe needs a little bit of cleanup here. But there you go. There's the story of Australia, Hawaii, and the imported cane toads.